Hi, and welcome to Wrong Way. And this, whoa, is my second ride review of the Kingsong S20 prototype. So, let me tell you more about it. Wrong Way. Believe it or not, this is already my third attempt of recording this video. First having some technical issues with the Insta, then having technical issues with the GoPro, and now hopefully everything will work out. I'm still waving the Ukrainian flag on my backpack. Yesterday there was a protest in Warsaw, so I did join it. Woo! Whoop! And yeah, so things are still kind of tense in Poland. We're still helping out Ukrainians, so you keep helping out as well. This will be great. But anyways, with that said, in this video, first I'm going to talk about 3 mods I did to the wheel to make it run increasingly better, a lot better. And then I'm going to tell you my general impressions of this wheel after riding for around 600 kilometers on it. Also, big thanks to my e-wheel for letting me get this wheel for testing purposes. I'm gonna send it back later. And also big thanks to Kingsong for arranging all of that. Woo! With that said, also today I have the newest firmware installed. And damn, it feels a lot quicker now. I'm actually pretty happy that I had those issues, because now it feels just ridiculously fast, this wheel. I mean, especially the low-end torque, I feel like got improved. Might be wrong. I'm actually gonna ride this wheel the exact track that I've ridden it yesterday 2 times. So I'm gonna have a pretty good comparison. Alright, so let's get into the mods. First mod I did is very important, and it is the tire. So originally on the Kingsong S20 there was this Gil wear tire, a tire that we didn't hear or didn't see in the EUC world before. And the problem with this tire was that it was really not allowing me to turn at all. It was just had a weird thread, and oh, that's some nice on-road off-roading. And I was scratching pedals on it constantly. It wasn't really stable. It was always kind of tilting in one or the other way, and you kept riding straight. All of the knobs were really far apart, which made it quite comfortable or safe for riding in like mud, heavy mud or sand. But in our general purposes, I just think that this tire wasn't the right fit for this wheel. I'm really curious to see what they will choose in the final production version. And if you want to see me using a street tire on this wheel, and let's get this video to 500 likes, and I'm gonna do it. So now I fitted this wheel with the CST C186 tire, and this is a pretty, okay, let's make a small jump. Whee! So much fun. I'm still scratching the pedals with this tire, but well, that's the nature of knobby tires. They won't allow you to turn that sharply like the street tires. But with the CST tire, I have a lot more response on the wheel, and even though I'm still scratching the pedals a bit, I have just a lot more control in turns. I feel a lot more safe in those turns, and yeah, it just feels more stable. I'm way more also used to the tire, so that might be also a reason why I feel better. But it just inspires so much more confidence. Oh, watch out. Into the ride. This coffee bike, I usually take tea from there, and I really like this spot, so it's really cool that he arrives there also with the bike. The second mod I did to this wheel to improve it are actually the side pads. So stock I had the stock Kingsong side pads. Their solution that they thought would be the best for this wheel, and quite frankly, they're usable, but for any sort of like fun performance riding, they just don't work well. Let's turn here. Ooh. They are way too wide. This wheel is already really wide. It's a lot wider than the Veteran Sherman. And with the additional pads, which are maybe adding a centimeter or a centimeter and a half per side on the wheel, it just gets really unwieldy. And you're sort of feeling like you are falling off. Pedals are also not that wide, so I love this part. It really feels a bit uncontrollable here. Check out the suspension working now. So with these torque pads, the wheel feels a lot more narrow. It's easier to control, it's easier to turn with, and you don't feel like you're constantly falling off from it. Oh yeah, really feels like a mini Baja race or something. Additionally, the stock pads were not having a lot of room here in between the pads, and they were really pushed far to the back, especially with the boomerang installed. So I removed the boomerang completely, and my feet are really leaning a lot over the front edge of the pedals, especially also on the right side, as you can see here. And this allows me to just accelerate easier on this wheel because it is so back heavy, because it's so balanced towards the back. It's easier to mitigate that and make riding a bit more easy when having the feet more in the front and the pads as well. Changing this and adding the torque pads, I couldn't test the Nilanova pads because they're just too big. Makes a hell of a difference, and yeah, it's actually really nice to accelerate now. I'm gonna leave the performance test though for the review, so stay tuned for that. The third thing I changed, and it is also really crucial, if not one of the most important things, is the suspension geometry setting. And maybe you'll ask, what? This wheel has variable geometry? And I'll tell you, yes! And I didn't hear that in other reviews. I didn't hear that even in the press material of Kingsong. But the thing is that this wheel has a set of options here in the back. Probably you can't see it now, but it's there anyways. There are some screws located, 3 screws, and this whole block you can move up or down, and therefore you also change the geometry of the suspension. So you can go from the most amount of travel, which was stock set up in the Kingsong S20, or the most amount of comfort. Now, with the most amount of travel, the suspension mechanism will be a lot stiffer, and this will be better for like big jumps and like extreme stuff. But for heavier riders, but for lighter riders and for more of a comfortable setting, you should definitely move those 3 screws down, and then the ride gets a hell lot of better. Really, it's completely a different world. It's actually quite enjoyable to ride on this wheel and feel the suspension. Before, I didn't really feel the suspension all that much, and now it's like I can feel it, responsive and okay, and yet still, you know, I guess stiff enough to be nice for performance riding. Like for bigger jumps, probably it will bottom out, but that's fine. There's also some rubber some rubber stoppers at the end to prevent any damage to the suspension. Now, it is still not as comfortable as the Emotion V11 or the Kingsong S18. This is due to the sliders here. It's a bit of a different mechanism, but I won't go too deep into that. But it's a lot better than it was before. Definitely quite an enjoyable riding experience now on the S20. All right, maybe a fourth bonus thing that you might try is to change the pedal height. And this is actually the only wheel that I prefer when the pedal setting is low, because it just gives me a bit more stability. The wheel is just a bit easier to accelerate with, and we can jump, I think here. Woohoo! And I have just a bit more stability in turns. It's also easier to sit down then because the distance between the shell, the seat, and the pedals is higher, bigger. So yeah, I prefer the lower pedal setting, even though I scratch my pedals up like crazy with it. Even in the higher pedal setting, I still scratch the pedals, but it's nowhere near as bad as the lower one. Thanks. So these are my main mods, which I did. So now let's get on to a bit of more of a ride review again of this wheel. We're going 50, 60. Oh, yeah, strong headwind. And I gotta say that after riding it a bit more, I have to conclude that King Song did sort of achieve what they wanted here. It is a faster wheel than like a 16X, than a S18, 18XL. Usually I top it out around like 55, 60 pedestrian at time. But I also did ride it at 70, just for a brief moment, but it is possible on this wheel. It is, I don't feel maybe necessarily as much torque or safety on the street as on the veteran Sherman, just because of the battery size difference. But still, it's very, very respectable. And I think that the torque is right there, somewhere in between the high speed Guads and the high torque. So it is sort of the best of the both worlds, but at the same time, not as much torque as I personally like. I just like tons of torque, like the Gauds HT wheel. So I still would prefer more torque on this wheel than what is available now. Maybe just a top speed of 55, 60 or even 50 kilometers an hour with insane amount of torque. With that said, I'm getting a lot more comfortable with it. And now that I have this newest firmware installed, damn, this thing just starts to fly. Maybe a thing that I forgot to really clearly state with this particular suspension setup now, it does help a lot with bumps and like not falling off the wheel. Even like on regular, potholes or like regular surfaces, it's a lot better to have suspension than not to. I also tried to mess with the suspension settings, with the compression, with the rebound, and the preload. And while I'd tried, to just slow down the rebound, to make the compression a bit stronger, and to have a bit of preload, just my favorite setting typically is to have it all the way open, unless I want to do some, fast riding on perfect surfaces. Then I like it a bit more stiff. But the reality of riding a EUC in the city is that you always want that travel in case of a pothole, or in case you just want to transition to a rusty bicycle path or off-road. So yeah, now we'll do some more off-roading. But as a conclusion to the setup that I have now and what I've learned about the wheel, as it came to me, it was probably the worst configuration I could have had for riding. It was not giving me a lot of freedom, it was holding me back, and it was heavy to accelerate with because of the legs being behind and the pads. The tire was not favorable, and the suspension setting was too stiff, so I wouldn't feel it unless I made big jumps or drops. So now it's a lot better, and I'm very happy about that. Now that is not a review yet, so please wait for that. But now I'm quite enjoying the riding experience on the S20. By the way, also, I use this light now because these other lights, they shouldn't be used in public space. They just should be used for off-roading. With that said, off-roading is ahead. So let's check that new torque. If there's any improvement here, because sometimes I feel like it just this wheel likes to spin out of control, you know? Let's jump here. Woo! Let's go here. Nice. Doing things with speed on this wheel is not as hard as on wheels that don't have suspension, because yeah, you just don't fall off from the wheel that easily. Here we have a small drop. Well, not a drop really, that's a vertical wall, is it? Whoa. Oh, whoa. Oh, nice. Sometimes when the suspension compresses, I'm really afraid I'm gonna hit the pedals again. It's kind of easy to hit the pedals or clip them because the shell is wide. It's just like smaller distance to the ground when you lean them than if the wheel would be narrow. Oh. I was riding around here also with the 16X long time ago already, but I remember that the 16X was doing really well here. Yesterday I went here twice on the S20, and now I'm going again with the newest software, and I think it does feel like it has just a bit more low-end torque, so that's cool. Maybe now it would be easier to do this incline I did before, where it had trouble. Oh, by the way, this incline that I did before, I tried it on the V11. It was a bit easier to do it on the V11, but upon the 5th try, I believe, I had to... Can I go up here? How would I do it? Maybe bounce here and there? I think that's possible. So let's bounce here and there. Whoa. Well, let's call that a success. So, okay, that was a dead end. So even though it felt a bit easier, felt like the V11 has a bit more low-end torque, it fried. So, whoop. I guess the S20 is the winner here with the safer safety mechanisms, temperature metering, and alarms. And this wheel just runs really, really cool as well. We have a small jump, which I did like, I don't know, the 3rd time now. And I gotta say that it's quite a bit of a hassle to push the wheel up, as there is no like handle. I mean, this handle is there, but you have to turn off the wheel to put it up. This handle is like, if you have just one hand, I guess it is possible to lift it over, but it's kind of hard to grab the wheel when you're off-roading. It'd be nice to have like a handle, I don't know, grip handle somewhere. I wonder, how does it tackle stairs now, or like small steps? It does feel a lot better. It doesn't have the clunk anymore. Oh no, it has the clunk. Hear that? This is not the suspension, if you wonder. This is actually the motor clicking inside. And that's a thing that I can't really put my finger on what is exactly. Maybe we can try it again and see in slow motion what it is. I gotta say, after those 600 kilometers, this wheel feels a lot better, especially with those mods I did. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep riding it until we're through with a review. I will also do a video comparison with this EUC against an e-bike, so stay tuned for that. And I guess if you're still here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.